Have you ever stopped to think about the impact your name can have on your life? In ancient Rome, it wasn't just a label. It was a real code that could open doors to wealth and power or condemn you to marginalization. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of imperial Rome, surrounded by soldiers, merchants, and influential politicians. Every name that echoes in the forums and squares carries a weight, a hidden meaning. For some, a name meant ascension and glory. For others, an inevitable destiny of servitude or exile. Today, we're going to delve into the mysteries behind Roman names and discover how they shape the life, status, and even destiny of each citizen. Get ready, because what you're about to learn could completely change your view of the power of names throughout history. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're already subscribed to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our videos full of historical curiosities about ancient Rome. And to begin to understand how all this developed, we need to go back to Gaius's birth, when family traditions and prestige shaped his first identity. The legacy of the name and Gaius's childhood. From the moment Gaius entered the world, his parents had already made their decision. They wanted a name that honored their ancestors and reinforced the family's status. Gaius referred to distinguished forebears, men who had served in the Roman army or held important political positions. Meanwhile, Cornelius was the clan's name, belonging to the famous gens Cornelia, one of the oldest and most influential in Rome. Even in the cradle, little Gaius carried this heavy legacy. Family stories were constantly repeated at home, exalting the Cornelis' participation in decisive battles and Roman politics. Thus, Gaius grew up hearing about the great deeds of figures like Scipio Africanus, who also belonged to this prestigious gens. From an early age, he realized that his name was not just a title, but an emblem that would guarantee respect and open doors. Or, on the other hand, generate expectations and obligations. His parents spoke of the studies he should pursue, the military or political career he would eventually embrace, and how he would possibly continue the reputation of the Corneli in the Eternal City. Have you ever wondered how a family legacy can shape the destiny of an empire? Leave your like now so we can continue bringing you powerful stories like this one. Leaving Gaius's childhood behind, we now move to the broader context of Rome, where we discover how certain families shaped the city and its values. The influence of Rome's great family. Among Rome's greatest gentes were the Julii, the Cornelii, the Claudii, and the Fabii, each with its own legendary history of heroic founders and extraordinary military feats. This system reinforced the idea of collective identity, where the glory of each member reflected on the entire clan's reputation. These families often had internal disputes and political rivalries. Power was not only divided by official positions, but also by how the family's name appeared in the public arena. In this context, political alliances were commonly sealed through marriages, strengthening the nomen and ensuring the continuation of privileges. The education of young men from these families was geared towards serving the state and the army. From a young age, boys were trained to defend the honor of their clan and develop leadership skills. It was in this environment that Gaius began to realize that failure was not an option. Any misstep or mistake would be directly associated with the name Cornelius, something that would not go unnoticed in a society filled with intrigue and watchful eyes. Now let's follow the crucial moment when Gaius, now a teenager, prepares for the rite of passage that would mark his entry into adulthood, carrying a name laden with expectations. The challenges and rituals of coming of age. At around 15 to 17 years old, young Roman boys would exchange the toga praetexta for the toga virilis. This ceremony symbolized the transition to adulthood and the assumption of civic responsibilities. Gaius approached this moment with great anxiety, knowing that from then on, family and societal pressures would only increase. In the days leading up to the ritual, families prepared feasts and offerings to the gods, asking for protection for the young man entering a new phase. Gaius received advice from his father about upholding the honor of the Cornelius clan, while his mother reminded him of the importance of choosing good allies. When he finally wore the toga virilis for the first time, Gaius felt a mix of pride and apprehension. He realized that beyond the status, he was now seen as a legitimate representative of the political and military interests of his clan. This ceremony was not just a formality, but the beginning of a chapter that would define his entire trajectory. Did you already know about these crucial rites of passage for young Romans? Comment below and share your thoughts. With the rite of passage completed, Gaius now faced a new stage, where the cognomen gained special significance, reflecting characteristics, achievements, and even hidden family secrets. The importance of the cognomen in the Roman elite. In many Roman families, the cognomen emerged as a nickname that distinguished different branches within the same genes. In Gaius's case, Lucius was incorporated to honor an ancestor with a great military reputation. Other famous examples included Scipio, Caesar, and even Cicero, which over time transformed into almost honorary titles. Frequently, the cognomen was used to exalt a virtue or a personal achievement. For example, members of families who had defeated notable enemies received epithets linked to the region of their victory, such as Africanus or Germanicus. These names could elevate an individual to the status of a living legend. However, for Gaius, his Lucius seemed to carry a heavy ancestral burden. As he delved into historical accounts, it became clear that society expected him to achieve the same greatness attributed to men who had made their names in the toughest military campaigns. Gaius understood that he could not escape this responsibility, but he also nurtured the desire to forge his own path, possibly in politics or rhetoric. Shifting focus slightly from Gaius, let's now look at how his female relatives navigated a much simpler naming system, though one laden with significant social implications. The role of women and their names in ancient Rome. Women in Rome, unlike men, did not receive varied first names. Generally, only the nomen of their family was used in its feminine form. Thus, if they were born into the genes Cornelia, they would be named Cornelia, repeating among sisters. To differentiate them, terms such as Maya, the elder, or Minor, the younger, were commonly used. Still, some women from elite families received special cognomina to highlight achievements or prestigious lineages. One notable example was Agrippina Minor, mother of Emperor Nero, who inherited her title to distinguish herself from her own mother, Agrippina Major. These exceptions showed that, even in a male-dominated world, some female figures found ways to stand out. Within Gaius's family, his aunts and sisters were often identified only as Cornelia Maya and Cornelia Minor. They rarely participated in political debates, but wielded influence behind the scenes, arranging marriage alliances and strengthening family connections. For Gaius, realizing how women's identities were intrinsically tied to their clans, name led him to reflect. A name was not just a personal choice, but a reflection of an entire society. If you're enjoying these historical insights, leave a like and share this video with a friend who loves Roman history. The world of slaves, the loss and reclamation of identity, considered the property of their masters. Roman slaves typically had only a single name, often assigned based on physical traits or place of origin. Common examples included Felix, fortunate, or Niger, black, as well as variations indicating their homeland, such as Cyrus from Syria or Gallicus from Gaul. Gaius frequently interacted with the slaves of the Cornelius family, as it was common for aristocratic boys to be served or even educated by more knowledgeable slaves. This exposure allowed him to witness firsthand the hardships and humiliations they endured, while also recognizing the dignity in their eyes. The integration of slaves into the history of Roman names became even more complex when some were granted freedom. Upon liberation, they would adopt the prenomen and nomen of their former master, while keeping their slave name as a cognomen, in an effort to reconstruct their identity, though they remained in an intermediate social position. In this context of slaves and freedmen, the story of Tiro shines, a former slave of Cicero who earned great respect and helped shape a crucial part of Rome's literary legacy. Liberation and Ascent. Tiro's achievements. Tiro was once a slave of the renowned orator Marcus Tullius Cicero. Extremely intelligent and well-educated, he became not just a servant, but Cicero's right-hand man, assisting in drafting speeches and organizing documents. Upon being freed, he officially adopted the name Marcus Tullius Tiro, honoring the genes of his former master. Tiro's role in preserving Cicero's works was fundamental. He even developed a shorthand notation system for recording speeches. Thanks to this method, many of Cicero's texts were copied and survive to this day, proving the immense impact that a former slave, now a freedman, had on the cultural and literary history of Rome. Tiro's journey resonated deeply with Gaius, who saw in his example proof that dedication and talent could overcome the limitations imposed by birth. He began to admire the persistence of those who, despite being born into oppression, managed to rewrite their own destinies. Did you already know about Tiro's story and his importance to Roman literature? Comment below, and let's continue this discussion. Now let's leave Tiro's story behind and move to the upper echelons of power, where emperors manipulated names and titles to legitimize or erase legacies. Emperors and their names. Between glory and power, many emperors like Octavian adopted the names of great historical figures to secure prestige. Octavian, for example, after being adopted by Julius Caesar, changed his name to Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, directly associating himself with Caesar's fame and honor. After consolidating his power, Octavian was granted the title Augustus by the Senate, meaning sublime or venerable. From that point on, this title became almost a requirement for all Roman emperors, reinforcing the idea of semi-divine authority associated with supreme leadership. In other cases, changing one's name was a strategy to erase the bad reputation left by predecessors. Emperor Vespasian, for example, deliberately avoided any association with Nero's chaotic reign, instead focusing on reforms and establishing a new image of order and stability for Rome. Gradually, we see the empire undergoing transformations. But how did these changes affect the naming system? It's time to explore how religion and societal shifts impacted the Nomina. The transition of the Nomina and the Christian influence, with the spread of Christianity, especially from the 4th century onward, many traditional customs were questioned or adapted. Names associated with pagan gods and mythological heritage lost popularity, while Christian names like Paul, Peter, and John gained widespread use. Over time, the Nomina system lost its complexity. The prenomen itself became less useful, as the limited number of available names led to frequent repetitions, making it less effective in distinguishing individuals. Consequently, names like Marcus, Lucius, and Publius gradually gave way to simpler designations, or those associated with saints and martyrs. Observing these changes, Gaius feared that the greatness of certain gentes might fade into history. However, he also recognized an opportunity for renewal, where religious virtues, such as charity and humility, could gain prominence in a society long dominated by the relentless pursuit of power and status. If this transformation of the empire surprises you. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more incredible insights about ancient Rome. Finally, let's fast forward in time to see how these names, even after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, endured, evolved, and remain with us today. The resilience of Roman names, from the fall of the empire to modern times after 476 AD, with the fall of the Western Roman Empire, Germanic peoples began to occupy former Roman territories, bringing their own names and traditions. However, much of the Roman legacy merged with local cultures. Words, laws, and of course names were not entirely lost. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, there was a revival of interest in Latin classics, thanks to monks, philosophers, and scholars rediscovering ancient manuscripts. This renaissance spurred the reintroduction of names inspired by historical and literary Roman figures, such as Julius, Augustus, and Flavia, which became symbols of erudition and prestige. Over the centuries, European nobility incorporated Roman names to strengthen their connection to a glorious past and legitimize new titles. Today, names like Marcus, Lucia, and Claudius remain in various languages, adapted across generations, proving the resilience and eternal fascination that Roman culture continues to inspire. Gaius Cornelius Lucius's story, intertwined with the grand saga of Roman names, shows us that a name is far more than just a collection of letters. It carries pride, identity, conflicts, achievements, and even deep societal transformations. The evolution of the Nomina over the centuries, shaped by religious shifts, political changes, and cultural encounters, reveals a society in constant adaptation, yet one that never completely severed its ties to the past. Thus, we conclude this journey through the corridors of time, where names become symbols and families become legends. If you enjoyed this time-traveling adventure and want more fascinating stories, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video about ancient Rome and the Empire.